being revised. Hello, I'm Amy Zawi with the Jerusalem Connection Red Alert for September 27. You'd be surprised how much freedom of speech and space and tolerance to absurdity is giving to our political leaders on the world stage. As reported by CAM, the Combat Antisemitism Movement, the Palestinian Authority's President Abbas made a speech that was largely ignored by the mainstream in terms of its content and that it was a pure farce. While Abbas is lauded as some sort of respected and legitimate leader representing some Arabs who identify as Palestinian, which is not actually a nationality, and he is also known as the more moderate of the stakeholders on the stage of Israeli-Palestinian politics, Abbas's latest speech leaves anyone with a cursory knowledge of the events of the 20th century, and certainly the ones who lived through it, with some significant questions of, is this man going through some degenerative mental disorder? The 87-year-old, so old enough to know better and also educated in Europe, offered remarks in an address at the Fatah Revolutionary Council in early September, and it has been translated and published by the DC-based Middle East Research Institute, and this was not a secret meeting. Nobody in academia, the university systems, North American politics, or press seem to really care, and I am particularly disappointed with educators, as a myriad of academics across disciplines and campuses in North America continually drumbeat the demise of Israel and laud the virtues of the so-called Palestinians and never once questioned their leadership. Nevertheless, President Abbas noted, and with all seriousness, that Hitler did not target the Jews for their Jewishness, but rather for their conduct in society, such as their business practices, money lending, and banking. Not only that, he claims, Jews in Europe are not actually Semites or Semitic, that is, originating from the lands of the Middle East, but are actually white Europeans whose conduct got them expelled from various locales over the centuries. And all the while, Abbas capitalized on centuries-old tropes about Jews and finances. One could not possibly engineer a more complete speech to insult Jews then, now, in Israel and worldwide. The Jews are to blame for Hitler and Europe's anger resulting in the Holocaust, which wasn't such a big deal anyway. European Jews are not connected in any way to the lands of the Middle East. The first Israelis actually persecuted the Jews located in Arab lands, and Israelis are just white Europeans occupying brown people's land. I really think this one speech rolled up into all the essentials of anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. It's like a bullet point speech. What's most outrageous is not that this agenda-driven leader made such claims, but that no one seemed to stand up and refute them in the mainstream circles, at least not in our schools and universities, where anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism have some sort of love affair with Palestinians and their leadership, and it flourishes. We can see some welcomed pushback by a few leaders. Please click on the link to the original article and you can see a few good retorts that were published on social media. But I still marvel at how none of the U.S. mainstream press covered this that I saw. And why must it be that niche news and watchdog groups must report on these types of speeches that actually expose the real sentiments behind our leaders? If Abbas's presupposition is that Jews in Europe in the mid-20th century were not targeted because of their racial or ethnic identity, but instead because of their conduct in society, then, number one, it blames the victims and seeks to justify the actions of the perpetrator, and two, it disconnects the victims from their identity and the roots of that identity. And while claiming that these non-Semitic Jews are but a mere niche of white Europeans whom nobody else liked, it reinforces the narrative that Jews are just one more member of the alleged white European supremacists who are conquering and occupying the lands of oppressed brown people. Moreover, to disconnect the Jewishness of the victims from the motivations of the Nazis and Hitler's murderous intentions cleanses the notion that anti-Semitism is alive and well then and now and has been for millennia, from the Middle East, from Egypt and Babylon to Persia, through the age of Christendom for 2,000 years in Europe. The cancer of hate that manifests as Jew hatred worldwide in our schools, within our politics, entertainment, and more, and manifests as anti-Zionism when it targets Israel, the only Jewish state among a sea of Islamic states, well, this is being woven into all facets of society and will become mainstream, much as it was back in the 1930s in Germany. The public will be so immune to the hate that it will be dismissed as harmless or packaged as a policy for the greater good. Please be vigilant and hold the words of our leaders accountable, expose them even when ignored by the press or considered inconsequential by the public. Hitler was dismissed as an outlier, a flash in the pan, an inconsequential political player, and this underestimation of his rhetoric and its effects on the public and his willingness to exercise power in extreme ways unfolded such that it horrified the world and left 6 million dead. And yet, while we say never again, we allow leaders to continue to espouse the same hate, and we continue to give them a seat at the table of the world's political stage. Combating Jew hate and anti-Zionism means we must pressure our leaders by insisting they stand up to anyone in the public arena who contradicts history. We, with good morals and values, we must also pressure our media to expose these public figures and our educators to participate by sharing these events with students and showing them what it really manifests. And let's not rely on our media and leaders only. We too must participate by sharing news events such as this, as the Abbas Speech, with our network and showing our friends and family and communities and our colleagues the false narratives and belief systems of lies that are trickling through our schools, our society, and our governments. Shavua Tov. Have a great week.